Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. You are on live with the Justice Team, the Consumer Legal Hour, Justina Winfrey. In studio, we have Brother David Peterson. On the call, we have Dr. Gail Frazier and Brother Reuben Fellows. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us on, Sister Justina.
Thank you.
So yesterday we were blessed to celebrate the birthdays of our history-making legacies, the legacies of Mayor Harold Washington and Mr. A. Philip Randolph at the
the National A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum.
Awesome. We have Brother David Peterson here, the executive director, in the building, and he can speak to the historical event that went on yesterday.
Thank you. So, well, first and foremost, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. Special thanks to the callers on, of which I'm blessed to be able to call mentors and people that I look up to and am inspired by. So this is definitely a treat when all the players get to meet. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
But just speaking to what you were talking about yesterday, yesterday was it was April 15th. And in 1889, Asa Philip Randolph was born in Crescent City, Florida. And then 33 years later, Mayor Harold Washington was born. So both of those brothers had an opportunity to bless this plain with their smartness, their innovation, their persistence, and make the world a better place and leave proofs of concept and manifestos on how to continue to do the work that they did. So with that being said, we feel that it's important to honor their legacy in perpetuity, because by doing so, we acknowledge a structure, we acknowledge a machine that they built for us that shows that it works. This structure, this discipline, if you will, is so divine that it evolved into two curriculums. The Harold Washington Legacy Committee has a curriculum. The National A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum, we have a curriculum on A. Philip Randolph and the Pullman Porters. So both of these things can be implemented under the Black agenda, under two items, under number 1 and number 7, enforcement of educational excellence and international tourism and cultural economic development. So we're blessed with the opportunity to have been able to celebrate their birthday alongside with members of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, because both of those brothers were actually also members of Phi Beta Sigma. So that was another little coincidence about them too. So we were blessed to be able to celebrate their birthdays yesterday and really kick off a nice movement, an intergenerational exchange of people just honoring those who've come before us and pressing on for the things that we need to do going forward.
And Brother Reuben, you were present in the building yesterday, and I was there too. Would you like to speak to the historical event yesterday on behalf of
you? Glad to be here to talk about it. Life as a Black man. But with that being said, it's always an honor to be in the presence of great minds, and anytime you can connect the world to true information is the most important. Everybody do information, but all of it's not true. So we're blessed to have a group of people that are dedicated to the truth unconditionally. So I just want to thank Brother David and the Dr. Hughes, the founder of the museum, and the work he's been doing to carry on the legacy. And I'm also a former board member of the museum, and I'm also a Phi Beta Sigma fraternity incorporated. I'm one of the brothers, and our theme here is a culture for service and humanity. And one of the reasons I pledged Sigma when I was in college was because the legacy and the history that we were about serving the people. And so, as you know, the Pullman Porters, they shined shoes, they took care of people, they were classy guys, dressed nice, sharp, even though they seemed like they was in a position of slavery type work, they carried themselves with dignity. And so the Phi Beta Sigma was blessed to be a part of that yesterday. And also the Honorable State Representative LaShawn K. Ford, who is a great supporter of me. He couldn't make it yesterday, but he sends his regard. He's a sport. He's also a Sigma. So we're just honored to have this historical moment, Sister Josie Charles, and bring those two together. And what makes it unique is David, being the next leadership, was able to get the Harold Washington legacy, him and Sister Chantel, who's a level up and vote, and work with the elders in terms of having that to be a great come together at this particular time. So, but I'm just honored to be there yesterday, and I just want to talk about accountability real quick when it comes to that. You can't, and I don't know, I know, Justine, I hope I'm politically correct, but I always like to deal with truth. You have the mayor of the city of Chicago, and you have two African-American women who talked about the legacy of being the historical, walking in the shoes of the late, great Harold Washington, and then yet not to recognize him on that day is just totally disrespectful to Harold's legacy and A. Philip, because you can't love Martin and not acknowledge A. Philip, because there is no Martin without A. Philip. So given that scenario, and then the mayor-elect says she's not going to be waiting till the Lincoln project, on $2 billion Lincoln TIF money project, and then before she's sworn in to office, she goes and have a meeting with them without the community being involved and tell us what they're going to do. So two things there, it sends a red flag, and I'm an organizer, so I have to deal with truth. If you're going to disrespect Harold Washington's legacy, which you walk in as a black sister, and then you're going to cut a deal with the people on the same level without talking to the people, it just looks like business as usual. That's all I got to say.
And what's so crazy is the reason that passion is welcomed and we're empathetic to it is because we already understand that that's the landscape of politics. I mean, when you look at the definition of politics, it's really self-explanatory what is really going on out here. And I think too many times we put too much of a moral expectation on politicians. And that's why we got to continue to build these structures for accountability around them so that we can properly engage the political machine, through civic engagement. We show up too late. So that's why I'm thankful that I got people like, Reven Felon, who can basically show us what to do. Because, just watching the way that he's been moving has given me a proof of concept of how you can get in and out of rooms and make sure that you get your ideas on the table. And that's so important, So now it's important that we get these ideas on the table in each ward. See, that's how Harold Washington won when he was running for mayor. You know what I mean? He went to all of these different neighborhoods and he met with the people prior to him running, you know what I mean? So that he could find out. And then even after he won, he continued to do that. So every time, after he won, he would pop up in these neighborhoods and get feedback from the community. And then they would basically let him know what they needed. So now when he goes back to the city council, he's properly representing everybody. It's not he just has a certain person that he's putting everything on and say, okay, yeah, they're going to tell me what's up because I think they know everything. No, they don't know everything. It's too many self-appointed people around people who are saying that they represent the community and they don't necessarily have that sanction to do that. You know what I mean? We don't speak in a monolith. So it's important that people have a consistent structure that allows us to get feedback from the community. And that's why an accountability council is imperative. It's necessary in this state of emergency. We don't have time to wait. We got to get our issues met on day one. So regardless of who's in office, it's still going to have to be 26 votes that they need to get anything passed. You know what I mean? So we need to be putting the pressure on the people that are applying those votes to these things. And that's what we'll be doing through the accountability council.
And if I can, before my mentor, my teacher comes on, I will be remiss to let people know I'm also the co-founder of the National Black Agenda Consortium and the outreach coordinator for them. So I had two hats on yesterday, the Phi Beta Sigma hat and the National Black Agenda. So I definitely was at the table. And as we always say, I tell Dave and the new millennial, if you ain't in the room, you show on the menu.
Oh.
So we have Dr. Gail Frazier on the line, and
hello, my dear.
Hello, Dr. Gail Frazier. And Dr. Frazier is one of my mentors, and
Thank you.
worked together on the Black Agenda along with Brother Reven. We've done some heavy lifting, as Dr. Frazier is a co-founder, and as I am a co-founder. We did this work starting back in 2011 and rolled out that agenda, the updated agenda, in 2012, and we've been going forth ever since. Thankfully, Brother Reven and Dr. Frazier have continued, along with Mr. James Hill and several others, to continue to push the Black agenda. And thankfully, we have a group of millennials like Brother David Peterson and Sister Chantal, who are now a Zennial. Oh, okay.
I'm the old one of y'all.
Okay. Who are basically pushing the Black agenda forward at new levels now, not just at the national level, but we're definitely focused on the accountability component for the city of Chicago mayor, and ensuring that we are bridging that gap with the elders, and we can be effective, and we're thankful. So forgive me for being long-winded, Dr. Frazier. Can we discuss violence as a disease and the work that you've been doing with this, please?
Sure. Well, thank you again. And it's always a blessing being with my brothers and sisters. This is a wonderful thing. And, we always work together because that's what we believe in. And of course, you already know, Sister Justina, that, and Brother Reven as well, that everything that we do is Black agenda. And you also know that everything we have done with the help of the community has always been grassroots, and we always have been inclusive. And so that is one of the things that's made that God empowered us to do. We don't take credit for it because it's all by divine providence that we do anything that we do. So the thing is that He has given us favor, in terms of allowing this agenda to be put together and structured in such a way that everybody can eat from it. So that part is a blessing. And then we've also been blessed to have our very own State Senator Bill Owens, who, of course, is the grandfather of this from out of Boston. And he sent his blessings, and he always, we stay in contact, and he's always saying how he's so pleased with how the Chicago, we have been pushing the national Black agenda. And if I can also say that, of course, everyone knows Sister Cecile, she's presently in South Carolina, but we have had the opportunity to go different places, and people have adopted the Black agenda. When we went to Ferguson for Brother Zaki Baruti and his group down there, they asked us to present. They adopted that. The brother Dr. Robert White from Alabama State University, when he had the opportunity to meet with us and we talked to him, they adopted that. So the thing is people are adopting it because they know that it's a comprehensive document. And it's also an emerging document. It's a living document, which says that it has no ending, that you can always add to it. We try to, again, work so that it would be all inclusive. That was the whole purpose. So we are very thankful for everyone who actually participated in the writing. We know in 2012, we thank God for Dr. Ivor Carruthers as well as Dr. Robert Starks, when they helped frame the initial part. And so we have really been pushing the Black agenda. The only thing that I'm concerned about overall is that we don't have any schisms, because what happens is that when we're working together, if we're working as one unit, there is no schism. And so we don't take offense when people say that they want to be able to use the Black agenda, in terms of the reason why it was created for people to use. So it's not something that just sits on the shelf or something that's on the internet that just stays there. It's for people to use. And so one of the things that's really a benefit for in using the Black agenda is that not only do we have down there issues-based things, but we also have ways to resolve the issues, how the individual, how the community, how faith-based, all of the components tie together. So, we're very pleased when other organizations like the New Black Leadership when they say that they want to use the Black agenda and, they tweaked it or whatever else they did. I had not seen the final part that they created, but the bottom line is that we work together and we share in this, and just like we function as one body. And so, as I said previously, we don't have any schisms. And if we don't have any schisms, and if we're all flowing in one accord, then ultimately we'll reach the same goal. So again, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So, we continue to encourage people to come on board. We do need financial reserves in order to continue to promote the Black agenda, in addition to developing the think tank that we have committed to doing, and we have started some of that. Sister Justine, and you're part of the think tank, and others are part of the think tank. So we're pushing it, and we're pushing the violence component as well. Part of the faith-based component of the Black agenda is address policies and things pertaining to violence as a disease. So we have been pushing that as well. So, when we sit back and we look at all of these things, we occupy in any position that we need to occupy until we get the results that we're supposed to have. So again, that's that in a nutshell, regarding the National Black Agenda that we framed with other organizations and grassroots organizations and subject matter experts. So we know that it's a document that is worthy. And so that's pretty much, all I can say right now about that.
Okay. So the violence as a disease, can you just give us a summary of the...
Sure, most definitely. The violence as a disease component, is dealing with, of course, the violence that we're seeing, the escalation of violence, and we're looking at it as a disease in the sense that we know, and even research has shown that, when you're under sustained trauma and all of those kinds of things, that affects the neurons and all of the other things of the brain. Well, of course, as a result of that being impaired, then that means there are going to be physical as well as mental impairments that need to have some support and assistance. So we have been pushing legislation and different things in that particular end, dealing with violence as a disease. And we have had forums at our church over on 76 in Saginaw, Windsor Park Church. And of course, Brother Reven, he's been an active part of this, and other faith-based, because see, my position is that the faith-based component, being the church and other faith-based entities, we have to be the moral compass. And the moral compass says that, these things, these powers that are impacting the people are demonic. And not only are they demonic, they are controlled. People are impacted by all of the different things that are happening. And so coming from that end, we know that we have to stand up, because see, everybody doesn't believe in praying. Everybody doesn't even believe that there is a God. So we're saying that, okay, well, we believe and we know that there is a God. We know who the God is. And so we pray. But not only do we pray, faith without works is dead. So because we put the works to, the hands to the plow and work, we've been having community forums. We're going to be having a major thing over at the South Shore Cultural Club with this organization called Bullets for Life. That's another connect that Brother Reven had with some sisters there, and they came out to our church when we had the particular forum, and they were so blessed and elated to see the work that we are doing as a faith-based community, that they say they want to be a part of it. So now NBAC, as well as Windsor Park, and as well as any other community organization that wants to be a part of it, we're going to be doing a major gathering on May 4th at the South Shore Cultural Club to address the violence. And Brother Reven already had mentioned State Rep Ford. He's like the anchor person in terms of drafting the legislation and different things based on the community response, based on the fact that we've had community people out there and everything, and sharing different concerns that we have. And then, of course, Yas Simpson being on the committee as well, who is also a part of NBAC. She's the mental, what is it? She works for the Cook County Health Department. So she's documented so much information regarding the mental health component and looking at it as a disease. So we're doing a lot of things. We're encouraging other people to get involved. They don't necessarily have to come to where we are, but people have to get involved. The other thing that I wanted to say before I, just close my mouth for a minute is that we see the necessity, and one of the things that I definitely had stressed is that any type of legislation or documentation or proposal or resolution, anything that's made, it cannot, and we do not want it to be a punitive one, whereas you continue with the old paradigm of locking up the Black folks, because we understand our issues are far greater than what a person can possibly imagine. So locking up Black folks is not the answer to this. And so that's the reason why we are purposely saying that we want to be at the table when all of these things are drafted and crafted so that we can make sure that it's one that's going to be doable for people who need help, because we know that our people need help. And so while, I always tell people I love everybody, but I'm concerned about my people first. And so, that's the position that we're taking. We're really hitting that violence, and we're calling a lot of women to come out, because a lot of the women, they understand the need for praying, and they also understand women, of course, they put their hands to the plow and they work. In addition, we call the brothers forth too, because we know the brothers are the strength. And so it's a holistic approach. It's not just one segmented entity, but everybody has to be involved because it's very serious. So that, in a nutshell, pretty much gives you an overview of what we're talking about doing. And of course, any questions you have or any comments, certainly we'll be glad to take them.
And then, Brother Reven, I believe that there is an upcoming event tomorrow. Or no, in 2 days at the Thompson Center. Can you go ahead and give us some information and the community information about that regarding this legislation with Rep. Ford? Brother Reven?
I'm sorry, I had it on mute. I'm back.
Okay.
We want to definitely commend Reverend Anthony Wims, who I gave him a full vision. He's a pastor in the ministry. I've been knowing him a long time as an organizer, minister, and been doing work back in the day with the street organization. So he has a long history of fighting. And so when the death door knocked at his step and his son, and it just impacted him. So God put it on his heart to deal with this. Let's take it to the legislature.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know, and David knows, dealing with A. Philip, if it ain't the policy, you just jaw-jacking. You just talking.
Right.
You talking about something that ain't law, ain't registered. So you just talking. So we believe, and so he's championing the peace. Let's get this thing registered as a resolution around viral disease, and then move policy. So, because with policy comes funding. And so, know, we looking for capital. So even the policy deals with you get the disease, so you get insurance, you get programs, you get funding to address the mental health problem. So it's a comprehensive. And then at the end of the day, State Rep. Ford and them are going to do a little bit different. As you find out where the money's coming from, we hold accountable, and we don't let it get to the usual suspects who've been getting it, and we don't have no fruits of our labor. So we just want to change. We're not creating a new wheel. We put new spokes in it, everybody. It's not a new wheel, but it's new spokes.
Exactly.
We need fresh young legs like Dave and Chantel and us who passionate. We got to get a whole new ball game. God said ain't nothing new under the sun, but he did say in scripture, behold, I'm doing a new thing. And so we on the new thing with God. And so on Thursday, I'm trying to pull it up, Rep. Ford, they're going to have a press conference at the State Illinois building.
Yes, if I could just chime in on that. Pastor Williams, it's going to be at 10 o'clock, and it's supposed to be at the State of Illinois building. Pastor Williams got in contact with me to let me know, because we're all working very closely together. And Pastor Williams, Nehemiah, which is his son, and I, Pastor Williams is my neighbor. And so, we've known each other for a number of years. And that's something that God laid on his heart, even before the death of Nehemiah, who was his oldest child. Even before that, he had been working in the area of violence. And so, the reality came is when his son got killed. He has other, children, but his son, Nehemiah, when Nehemiah got killed, that put a whole new light on everything. And his brother even said, Pastor Williams has championed this particular bill. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, in addition, prior to that, we had State Rep Ford to come out to the church and we addressed the violence issue. And then after that, State Rep Lisa Hernandez also came to the church. And when she came out, everybody was there and we laid out. And Sister Ya, of course, did her presentation on the disease component. And, you know, she was just totally floored when she saw the information, and she committed to continuing to do the work. And so she and State Rep Ford have been pushing it, but State Rep Ford is her forward. And, you know, of course, we know that State Rep Ford has a history of being able to get bills and things passed. So we're looking to meet with him, I mean, you know, for this. And we're also still looking forward to meet with the Speaker of the House because we are planning on sitting down with him as well. So this is not just something that we're just sitting back talking about. We putting faith in motion. This is what it's called. So we're actually doing the work in terms of trying to get this passed so that we can have some help for our people.
And if I can add, we are calling all the women of all the have lost their children. I'm gonna make a call to the men and David. We're working with, you know, they're trying to destroy the black man and kill us at the same time. So we have to be strategic. So black women, don't think we ain't doing nothing, but we just can't raise up. Ain't nobody scared. We just don't want to die like a coward and die like a fool. So if you die, you die for real and not sitting in your car and hide behind your curtains. But we want to say, the women that Mr. Flager has been working with, the women organization, Women of Pain, I can't think of the name of it, but those women, they're listening. If you are in any organization around children and violence and the sexual assault in the schools report and our young people, we have to get down to this press conference and send a message as a united front. Don't think because your son got shot and then you dealing with a sexual abuse. Any abuse is violence. Any kind of violence is a disease on black people. So we want everybody to come out to that press conference that's loaded up and let the people know, because we got new administration need to see new movement and some spiritual movement. So we really thank God for Reverend Williams and Dr. Frazier and my sister over there, Ashley, with Bullets for Life. It's a national campaign. Give me a bullet for life. So we had people turning in guns, but bullet for life, give me a bullet for life means if you turn in a bullet, that's one person not shot. So they split the game on, y'all can get the guns, but we want the bullets. And so once we get the bullet, that means each time a bullet is turned in and turned to a bracelet, if you got 5 bullets on your wrist that ain't been fired, then that's 5 lives you saved. So you're supposed to get your bullet for life bracelet, your bullet for life necklace, and then save a life, because it's all bullet for life.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So tomorrow, we're looking at April 18th, 10 a.m. There will be a press conference Thursday, April 18th, 2019, 10 a.m. at the Thompson Center. And this will be a comprehensive, a press conference regarding comprehensive legislation on violence as a disease, the actual bill that Rep Ford will propose in the legislature. And we do know that Rep Lisa Hernandez is a support of. She's
also one of the she's one of the co-sponsors as well.
Awesome. So everyone, April 18, 2019 at 10 a.m. at the Thompson Center, there will be a press conference. In addition to the rollout of violence as a disease, the legislation that needs to get passed, and we need all of the community to support this, because not only will it bring additional funding for mental health services, but it will bring additional wraparound services to the community.
Exactly.
And I know for a fact that legislation such as the FMLA, in addition to VESA, Victims Economic Safety and Securities Leave Act, has been a protector of people who are employed. So just imagine getting legislation passed, and they've watered down VESA over the last few years, unfortunately, but it would ultimately protect women, men, whomever, if a person had dealt with violence in their past, issues of violence, domestic violence, it would protect them and allow them to seek shelter and a safe haven without losing their employment and having the option to notify their employer within 48 hours. So I'm just putting this kind of information out there because we know for a fact that people need safeguards in place.
Yes.
This changes their lives. Violence does change their lives as a result. And it, aside from the depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, Sister Ya is an epidemiologist, if I'm saying that correctly.
You're absolutely right. She certainly is.
And she's one of the few African-American epidemiologists
this is correct.
in Chicago. So
you're absolutely right.
By God's grace, we have some subject matter experts at the table who are working on this legislation to really move this piece forward. So we need for the community to step up and be a part of getting this legislation passed, because you never know how this can impact your life in a positive way.
And Sister, you know what, Sister Justina, and one of the things I was thinking about, because remember, you pretty much are the queen of what I always talk about, the wraparound services. So you're absolutely right. The funding will be for wraparound services, you know, and as Brother Reuben said, not just to siphon the money down to the regular organizations that get the money, and then you find out they're not really doing, and I'm not saying they're not doing anything, I would never say that, but we need for it to get all the way down to the true grassroots, to the ones who are really, really hurting and the ones who really need it. And so that's something that's very serious when we talk about the children, the trauma and sustained trauma. We're not just talking about trauma that this just happened. We're talking about sustained trauma and how that impacts a person's brain. And then when you take it all the way back to Black folks in particular, the sustained trauma that we are under even since slavery. You know, and that has never relented. I mean, it's still in motion. It's perpetual. You know, it's into perpetuity. So as we know, this is something that's absolutely necessary. And then when you see the levels of hatred, self-hatred, that which results in the black on black crime, and you know, because you see somebody and that person looks like you and you hate yourself, so that means I hate you too. And so we got this thing, this escalation. We have to turn back to loving one another, and as Brother Reuben always talked about, the atonement piece. It's got to be some atonement going on. And so you know, it's much that has to be done. And so we're trying to start this thing. We're believing the Lord to move in a mighty way. He's already been showing himself, showing his hand, you know, and everything. But this is very serious, and it's very serious for us. So we move this. We definitely, and again, that's a Black agenda piece. You know what I'm saying? Public safety, public health. That's a Black agenda piece.
Yes. I just wanted to touch briefly on what you had just mentioned, the post-traumatic slave syndrome disorder, and how that is impacting our communities. Of course. The fact that, you know, you can't just shake off hundreds of years of
you can't
you know. So I'm thankful. I'm so thankful for you all moving this piece forward. You all are truly a blessing, and we just need more young people to step up and get involved. They need to understand why they're behaving the way that they behave.
Exactly.
Aside from, and I continue to bring this up, the lead that we have in the water and how it's impacting the brain. I have a girlfriend from high school, a brilliant sister. Both of her children have been two out of three of her children have been diagnosed with lead poisoning. One, by God's grace, just received a kidney transplant from her other child, the third child, the oldest. The middle child brought his 21st birthday in on dialysis. Her 14-year-old daughter has been diagnosed with high levels of lead. And we're on the west side of Chicago. So this has to be addressed outside of the legislation with violence as a disease, thankfully, it's a segue into let's also address the issues with the lead in the water in Chicago.
Yes, you absolutely. And you're talking about environmental justice. That's a national Black agenda issue. We have components in there that's addressing different things, and so you see when you're saying these things, everything that we are impacted by, and everything that we have been impacted by. It's we're addressing it, or at least we look at everything as being a Black agenda. I mean, it's nothing that you can say that stop pertaining to Black agenda work.
If I can add, I want to definitely thank Brother Anthony Driver, who actually ran for alderman in the 20th Ward. And one of the things he did was help petition to get the lead conversation on the ballot. He did a great job of organizing, people champion. But when young people champion something amongst young people, it gets a higher volume because they're able to take it to their own personal. And when you give these young people, you can't keep telling them to get involved if you don't tell them what their personal interest is to it. They have to invest in it. You keep telling young people, come out, do this. But if they don't see themselves in it, they don't make a commitment. So I praise him for that. And then I want to say this, and I want to throw it on. Is David still here on the line?
Yes, I'm right here.
Yeah, I want you to chime in on this. As Brother Mark said, everybody in the situation, all this violence is an economic agenda for them other people. We're all trying to get through something, solving an economic, all the brothers in jail trying to solve an economic problem, as Nog Allen always say. And all these things we're talking about suffering on Black people become an economic cash cow for these people. But we also got to, and I want you, Brother Dave, to chime in. I'm going to throw something out here. We got to stop this Black on Black economic violence. The Black on Black, when you won't hire your cousin to landscape at your house and won't get your son to mow the lawn, but get Julio to mow the lawn. And you got a Black church, you got Latinos painting, you got Black paint contractors inside the building, and you're hiring Latinos. This ain't nothing against Latinos, but take care of your own first. And then you go to a Black store and they have a bad day, you tell everybody that all the Black stores ain't no good, but you go to Walgreens, Walmart, you start on 75th Street, they treat you wrong, then you go to 87 Walgreens, you keep moving, but you don't tell nobody the Walgreens ain't no good. You go to the first herb store, then go across the street to the other herb store, it's cousin, and you get mistreated. You don't never tell nobody all them bad. But if you get one bad friends with a Black person, you got to tell everybody Black folks don't do good. Black on Black violence, and all the people that's hiring Latinos to cut the grass. Yeah, there's some brothers that don't do work, but finding him like God trying to find some, because we're 400 years commemoration of slavery, August 20th. We've been traumatized, raped, murdered, and destroyed mentally. So you got to have a more commitment to your own. Don't think just because they treat you bad, it's the self-hatred. So, David, I want you to address how can we solve Black on Black economic violence?
Well, I think first, I think first we have to start by acknowledging it, having that's what this accountability piece is about. It's acknowledging that it's there, right? So even in the terms of methods of dealing with violence, right? We so normally just always say, to stop the violence, just give somebody a job, right? That becomes like the social service response. Meanwhile, the person that just shot somebody got a $400 pistol, about $1,000 of illegal cash in his pocket, $1,000 shoes on, $800 pants, and a $200 shirt, and he about to go to the bar and mess it all up and not even blink. You know what I mean? So we need to talk about the conflict resolution and the rage that we're dealing with. And all of this, once again, is a mental health issue. You know what I mean? Like, these brothers are dealing with post-traumatic stress. Some of them have anxiety. But beyond that, a lot of them are dealing with social learning theory. You know what I mean? So they're repeating what they're seeing and what they have been saying. This is the norm. This is how I deal with this. I have to respond, because if I don't respond, are they going to respect me? Are they going to come back for me? I got to send a message. You know what I mean? So there are a lot of deeper tentacles that go into this whole thing. You know what I mean? I think more than anything, we have to have enforcement and consequences for economic violence and for the violence in our communities. And even the emphasis on the statistics that we share. You know, we always say, well, you know, all these people that killed in Black people. Well, if you go in a white community, all the people doing the crime in there are white. You know, but we don't talk about white on white crime. You know what I mean? So because they're doing such a thing, and they crazy killing each other just like we are. You know what I mean? So I think that the most important thing for us to do right now is come up with realistic approaches to these problems by having a self-check moment and say, okay, what was my contribution to this? You know, because this economic violence within our community is terrible right now. You know what I mean? And it starts it starts with the crooked elected officials and their negligent staffers. So while we're while we're talking about legislation and things like that, you know what I mean? We're trying to institute a negligent staffer ordinance. You know what I mean? How many people have put together hours and hours of hard work, dedication, and practitionership into a proposal that they've submitted to an elected official that didn't even make it past the staffer because the staffer didn't feel like they were important? How many people have been blatantly disrespected by staffers who just undermine and dismissed your genuine concern to just do your civic duty? You know what I mean? And we have to stop this type of stuff. And that happens, you know what I mean? So you got people out here who are actually doing the work who can't get access to certain contracts and grants and things of that nature because negligent staffers and crooked elected officials. And it's unfortunate because it breeds grounds for poverty among people that genuinely need the resources and can actually do something with it. So you look at budgets and you break down the budgets, you see how much money is there and you see how much impact that money has had that's been spent, and something's not lining up. You know what I mean? Everything in lining up. So we need audits on these budgets. Who's getting this money? We need audits. I need proof.
Exactly.
We need measurable outcomes. What came from this?
Exactly.
What came from all of this money that we spent? You know?
I certainly agree with you on that. Absolutely. And when you're saying that, it's really something that you're saying that because I serve as the dean for the U.S. Minority Contractors Association, and Brother Reven is an ambassador for the U.S. Minority Contractors Association. And I, teach some of the classes, blueprint reading in particular, estimating, and bidding. And one of the things that we find in these classes is that, and I tell everybody, we have qualified contractors. We have qualified contractors can do whatever that needs to be done. But when it comes down to the paperwork and all of those kinds of things, that's where they have the challenges. And, and while the city and other organizations are, they say, oh, we're helping them. But the bottom line is that they have to jump through even more hurdles to become certified. They have to jump through even more hurdles to be able to get the contractors. Because now you apply for this, but do you have this too? So it's still a difficult challenge for many Black contractors to get these contracts that's worth something. And so, so that accountability piece that you're talking about is very critical. The accountability piece and seeing where all of this money is going. Because unfortunately, the contractors, the genuine contractors who can do work, unfortunately, they're not getting a lot of these projects. And so what happens is that they become frustrated. And what do you do when you become frustrated? You go and try to find you a job. So when you talk about the economic component, a lot of the contractors, Black contractors who are trying to do the work, they go out and they have to find a job because they don't have the wherewithal to compete with or to jump through all of the hurdles that they're saying that you still have to complete or you have to do. So we have some very serious issues on that level. That's why we need everybody working in this game for real.
Absolutely. And then, in addition to that, any elected official that adopts this Black agenda and says that they are willing to work with this accountability council, what we're here to do is make you look good. We're here to do the work for you because we're not afforded the luxury of time to wait for you to fall on your face and have egg on your face and cake.
Exactly.
We are not afforded the luxury of time for that. So what we're saying is, look, we're tired of sitting back. Where's the consolidated plan? All right, look, give it to us. We'll do the damn work. We breaking it down, bullet point by bullet point, finding every single cent that is in this city budget and finding out where that money is going and how we can plug into it to implement more programming, more initiatives, more business development so that we can help get this ball rolling. Because while we're waiting and then your negligent staffer is blocking us from even just merely getting in contact with you, you're wasting time and people's lives are not being impacted in the manner that they could because the Creator has already blessed us with an abundant amount of information and skill sets at this very point in time. And he's blessed us with a time where the women The feminine energy is the most dominant energy right now. We got it made right now because you all don't never want to mess stuff up. If women were in charge in a lot of situations, stuff wouldn't be crazy. We'd be going to war over stupid stuff and, blowing stuff up, Women would just sit down and have some tea about something. They might, say some mean things to each other, but they're going to get it done because they are protectors and nurturers by nature. So think in terms of a mother, right? The things that they're going to think about initially are different than some things that men might think about. They're going to think of, okay, how am I going to make sure these babies are fed? How am I going to make sure that everything at the foundational level is taken care of? That is the type of leadership we need right now in the city, because that's why we're sitting on blocks and blocks of dilapidated properties and things like that, because nobody's even saying, well, you can put a garden right here, or you can turn this into a culture place, or you can do this, or you can do just simple stuff. You know what I mean? So we got to get to that place. You know what I mean? And that's why this accountability council is important, once again, because it gives people access to the community's input on a consistent basis. We'll meet quarterly. We'll present quarterly, meet monthly and bi-weekly. But we'll present these findings quarterly to the elected officials to say, look, this is what's going on. We want to mirror the city council, at least in the wards that are predominantly impacted by census tracts dominated by Black people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
awesome.
I know for a fact that there are about 5 groups that are focused on an accountability piece. And I've been blessed to be approached by each group. And at some point, every single group will come together to be an amazing, impactful powerhouse. Why? Because it's absolutely necessary. We know that there's power in numbers. We know that Brother Brian Mullins and the Citizens for Civic Education is organizing this.
Yes.
We an accountability piece. We know that the Mayor Harold Washington Legacy Committee is organizing an accountability component.
Yes.
We know that Dr. Amara Inya is organizing an accountability piece. We also know that the D2O Army Council on the west side of Chicago and Apostle Stephen Stoltz and the D2O Army, they're also organizing an accountability piece, and they're proposing not 1, but 2 city ordinances that will positively impact our communities in a way that, 1, will bring the opportunities for cooperative housing, in addition to economic development in the community. So if we bring all of these groups together, and forgive me, in addition to the National Black Agenda Consortium, as we bring all 5 of these groups together to coalition build, the community, I believe in the name of Jesus, will be receiving of the accountability component and will be forced to understand the information at all different levels, because it will be broken down into different levels. Go ahead, Brother David.
And I was just going to say that is exactly what the council is about. You know what I mean? Once again, mirroring the city council. So in every different ward, we will have blocks. But we're talking about voter blocks, because we're taking the power back in our vote. So in the 9th ward and the 34th ward, we got block 934. But in the 20th ward, they might have one. In the 6th ward, they might have one. In the 24th, they might have one. Every single ward will have their own different block that plugs into this big machine, this governing body that is all nurtured by us all. So when somebody got a problem in 20, guess who all coming? Everybody from 26, 24, 5, we all coming over there to aid and assist that righteous endeavor at that specific moment in time, because that's what needs to be. So after we decide what our deliverables will be, what our consequences will be, now anybody who is against that will have to deal with one of those things, and it'll be a plethora of consequences, and they'll all be tactful. We're not coming in here to be mau and crass with it. We're coming to show you all that no, we have read too, and we want to do the same things that other people in other communities do. That's why they get things done.
Excellent.
If the Information Research Network specialist can bring it into existence, the neutralizer of all those great, as State Rep Ford was saying during campaign, everybody kept saying, Well, it's too many people in the race. Ralph Ford say the city got too many people for it just to be 15 people in the race. You got it twisted. Some people ain't being represented here. If it's 15, don't you think it's more culture, more people in Chicago, in this big city, just to have 15 running? And I say that we have a bunch of organizations start to create when people get tired and sick and tired. So it's a good thing. But the neutralizer is just like yesterday. You can talk a good game, but ain't nobody better than Michael Jordan, and ain't nobody better than Harold and A. Phillip. So when you get to it, the author and the godfather arm of this conversation is the African American Family Commission that Mr. Mike Holmes used to have, and there's a legislated law that signed a civil rights bill on July 2nd, my birthday, which you had accountability in Illinois, a document for the whole of housing, education, criminal justice, environment, to accountability with a legal document for them to go in and investigate. So the way we bring these groups, because we sometimes fragment it and think we know more than the other, but we'll go to meet Sister Winfrey. That's me and you and David and Dr. Frazier talk about how do we bring this conversation, because they're no longer funding the African American Family Commission. No. It's been defunded. So if you do all this hollering for accountability and you don't have a legislative law, the civil rights law, to hold these accountabilities in government, then we just sort of chasing around the wheel. So what I think could happen to neutralize all these organizations so we won't get egotistic and think we know everything is we bring the conversation back on the African American Family Commission for all us to go together and demand funding for that apparatus, and we become the arm and umbrella and the leg to accountability of a legalized entity based on civil rights accountability. I think that would be powerful.
Woo! Absolutely.
Yes.
That was definitely. It. That's it. That's
definitely,
it.
Definitely.
That is it.
Definitely. Without a doubt.
Man, you snap. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So
Justina, that's on you now.
to lobby for the African American Family Commission. You know, we were all at the table as we saw it slowly decline, and it was an extreme disappointment under the previous administration, the Rauner administration, that the African American Family Commission, as we understand it, was defunded as a result of the former administration. So with Pritzker currently in office, we need to hold him accountable. We need to hold. We do have a black lieutenant governor, yes, Juliana Stratton, and we need to hold the Speaker of the House accountable.
Exactly, that's what we have to do. And if I could just add in there, if they're having, they're putting dollars aside for health insurance for people to have sex changes and stuff like that, surely they should have monies. Be able to reinstate based on us, engaging them. The African American Family Commission, so that goes back to the accountability piece as well. So that's something we definitely, and I agree with you, Brother Regan, when you said that, we definitely need to start working to get that back in, because that was a viable entity. And as you said, it was defunded. It was defunded, and we were at the table all the time. Okay.
And the Latino Commission, when they defunded it, they defunded them too. But I was able to go to the, again, I ain't anti-nobody, but I do like when I see wisdom, and the Latinos are doing a great job. They're organizing. They're not playing.
Sure.
But I went to the conference in Springfield, the annual conference convention in Springfield, and I was down there a whole day. They talked about how when they defunded, what they did was went to other departments and got the money from different portions, because Latinos was over that department, and they refunded themselves. Unfortunately, our Black Caucus didn't do it. Is go back to David saying we need to have, whether it be the staff or whoever, we need to be better stewards. So if they don't know, then the accountability can show.
Yes. Without a doubt.
Well, since we did briefly touch on housing, every opportunity I get to bring to the forefront that we do not have an active housing committee at the state level, that needs to be a major agenda item on the table for Black people in our communities. We need to be asking the very basic question: what are our state legislators doing in Springfield without having an active housing committee? And then we can better have a better idea as to why we're down over 120,000 units of affordable housing, not low income housing, but just basic affordable housing in the city of Chicago. Again, Brother David touched on the fact that we see a lot of blight in the community, a lot of disinvestment. This has been going on since the Chicago riots. The west side of Chicago has not been redeveloped since the Chicago riots. And we have elected officials that have been in office since the 1972 Black Agenda Convention that happened in Gary. And Brother Reven, you can speak to all of that. So let's hold our elected officials accountable for not having an active housing committee to ensure that we have adequate housing laws for the community, particularly not just particularly the west side, but in a ward where you have 70% African American residents who are being displaced. We should be concerned that the city of Chicago is setting the standards for housing, not just because of HUD, and we touched on this recently, but you have corporate developers coming in, receiving dollar lots and saying this is our money and we don't have to put affordable housing. So you should be grateful that we're even putting us 20% affordable housing. And Brother Reven, you were in the building at that meeting too for the 27th Ward property that's being built. Okay. And the people in the building were saying, hey, we're concerned that what you deem as affordable housing, according to the city of Chicago standards, is not affordable to the common person who is perhaps making at minimum $15 an hour. So we understand that it means that no, affordable doesn't mean that you and your family can move in at $1,300 a month and live in this beautiful brand new property. Okay. Brother Reven, you were in the building. Let's talk about that and the fact that we need a housing committee at the state level.
Well, I think I'm with you, and I'm with you, and you've been a champion and screaming the loudest. You know how they say, how do you say out with an elephant on your foot? You've been screaming loud. So
it really has.
I think what we need to do is, and as you say, I know my good friend State Rep is in real estate, but we'll take a page from Rep Ford's book and his model, and A. Philip Randolph and Brother David is when he went to see the president. And the man say, make me do it. So we're going to have to go to our elected officials, state rep, and all those bodies of the caucus and make them do it.
Amen.
Make them do it.
All right.
That's what we do. Make them do it. We ain't asking, but it goes back to Dave. Accountability means there might be oppression here a little there a little bit, and sometimes it be uncomfortable pressure, but we can't talk about those all the time on the line.
Exactly.
So can we get a quick 30-second word from everyone as we wrap up this awesome conversation and night of education for our community and with each other? Dr. Frazier?
Sure. Well, thank you again for having us on. You soul sister to the bone. Love you so much. Yes, as far as the National Black Agenda Consortium, we know that our mantra is educate, organize, and mobilize. And so the thing is that we've been working on various fronts for a number of years. And the thing that I want to say is that, of course, we have always volunteered this. We've been on we're not on anybody's payroll to do Black Agenda work. We do it because it has to be done. Now, we saying that we don't want resources? No, we're not saying this, but this is just saying that we are a tenacious group of individuals who love our people so much that we're willing and we do sacrifice to do the work. So I just want to put that out there. If anybody out there in the listening audience says, hey, we want to contribute to the National Black Agenda Consortium so that they can continue to work, or we can collaborate then by all means, look us up so that we can work together. So that's my spiel on all of this. And we just pray everything will continue to move forward. We know divine providence and divine intervention is on our side. So thank you very much.
Brother Reason.
Well, I'll say two things. One, let's stop the black-on-black boycott of our own people. Before we get to the white people, let's stop the black-on-black boycott. And the other piece is we have to be intentional about where we are now. And so I'll be remiss without laying my good brother, that's the base of all this, the military genius mind, Navy guy, Marine. He's been able to organize over 15 years, 300-something block clubs, and have a full strategic plan on accountability for the church, accountability for the nonprofit, accountability for the lotto. How many businessmen, lawyers in your community on one day? How many doctors and firemen? So we have a list of all the black firemen, all the black police, all the teachers. So we start early in first grade matching these young people in this database that want to be police officers in first grade so he can grow up and not be a shooter of his own people and be a positive entity. Those young people that want to be lawyers already, or those want to be pastors. So we got to create a database of all these professionals and give them to our children and mentor them early like Tiger Woods' daddy did. That's my message.
Amen. Brother David Peterson.
I would first like to say June 15, 2019 will be our annual Juneteenth family reunion celebration at the A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum in collaboration with the Black Mall and WDB Marketing and City Events and Gus Redmond Productions. So we're excited about that. Once again, happy birthday to A. Philip Randolph and Harold Washington. Third of all, we look forward to hearing from everybody in your specific block, your ward, about joining on to this accountability council so that we can continue to implement and enforce the Black agenda. Special thanks to the Creator for blessing us with trailblazers who put the framework together for the National Black Agenda Consortium so that we could have something to pick from and condense for the ADHD generation who don't have time to comb through it like that. We thank God for blessing us with the trailblazers who have enough focus and discipline to go be able to comb through that and then take that initiative and then make it receivable for those who just need it at a quick snapshot. So we're thankful for that, and we're looking forward to implementing it.
Thank you so much this evening. You all are amazing. Thank you for the blessed work that you continue to do. Thank you, Brother Earl Winfrey, for the platform here at the beautiful Intellectual Radio studio. And we are truly blessed to be on iHeart this evening at Intellectual Radio. Have a blessed evening, everyone. We are signing off the Consumer Legal Hour with the Justice Team. God bless you all. And we'll see you April 18th, 10 a.m. at the Thompson Center, and Juneteenth, the Juneteenth celebration at the National Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum. God bless.